My name is Anthony Morgan. I'm the Managing Director of New Form Energy, Technical Director of Passive House Solutions Limited, and also the Director of Innovation for the Carbon Free Group.
Can you tell us about the Calyx Pine project and how the passive energy being used there?
The Pines Calyx is an incredibly sustainable building. It was built using all recycled materials, or materials that were sourced locally to the building itself. It was a demonstration to show what could actually be done with using ancient building techniques incorporated with very, very modern ideals. They were able to produce a passive structure, which is using an ancient method called timbral vaulting to support the roof in place of concrete, and everything down to the linoleum tiles on the floor are made from sort of recycled oils and other materials in that manner. I think that at the end of the day, the average cost for a building of that same size, a conference facility of that same size, would be roughly £2,000 per square metre. And the final bill associated with the Pines Calyx was £1,600 per square metre, which was a good demonstration that it doesn't have to cost the earth to be actually quite a significant building, and also incredibly attractive and architecturally important as well. The passive design, it's a very, very airtight structure with that's thermally efficient, very high levels of insulation, and orientated in a manner to be able to capture as much of the energy from the sun as possible. Things that have to be considered are the thermal energy requirement, the heating requirement of the building, which has got to be 15 kilowatt hours per metre squared per annum or less. Air tightness has got to be below 1 megapascal per cubic metre of volume of the building per hour or less. The overall energy requirement of the building, including the electrical requirements, has got to be less than 120 kilowatt hours per metre squared per annum or less. Britain enjoyed for many years during the 70s and 80s a period of incredibly cheap fuel prices. So there wasn't any importance to conserve energy. When you were buying, we had the cheapest gas in Europe, so there was no requirement for people to actually go down this pathway. There was a comment that was made to me some time ago saying that in England we build our buildings like the Swedish build their cowsheds. So in other words, very leaky structures with very little in the way of insulation. Passive house design can be applied in the United Kingdom. It doesn't get quite so hot here, obviously, in the summer, and equally we don't see the very cold temperatures that you get often on the continent. When you're looking to push the buildings closer and closer to zero carbon, then the amount of energy that's being used by the building to start with becomes more and more important. So it's far simpler to design buildings that use less energy to start with, so that renewables tend to be relatively expensive. So when if you design a building that's fundamentally airtight and insulated, then you need less renewable energy systems to be able to support those buildings. Refurbishing to passive standard, this is something that we've actually very interested in. 90% of buildings that will be in existence by 2050 have already been built. And the energy requirements of those buildings have got to be dropped by 80% by 2050. So refurbishment is a key area as we see it in regards to energy conservation. It can't be done in every single situation because of the nature of the buildings. A Grade 2 listed building, for example, you wouldn't be able to anyway. But it's certainly something that is of importance, and if we can try and push buildings closer and closer to that standard, then obviously you can have the same benefits. In this country, 30% of the CO2 output is from buildings, the built environment. So if we can reduce the energy requirement of buildings in this country, then we are going a long way to improving the CO2 emissions from the country.